Welcome to another edition of the TSS podcast, brought to you in association with Luke 1977 and Bowden and Dolphin, with your hosts Rob Carlos from Bob's Books and the legend that is Shaun Teale. He's here, there, and everywhere, and he's Tealey saying something.
Now that is really a good link to welcome a brand new podcast for your delectation. Abbreviated, it's called the TSS podcast, but let me set the scene for you. My name is Rob Carlos, and I've been a football nerd for over 50 years now. More recently, I've taken to writing books on the game. And during those 50 years, the aspect of football that I keep coming back to is how it's so unique in the fact that fans are so ingrained in its culture and the football itself. And we all know that football is nothing without its fans, and the footballers themselves are like family. So it's the ties that bind the two that, really interest me. It can involve any club, any given time. If it's a good story, it's basically fair game for me. So as well as writing books generically on football, 2 years ago, I was asked whether I'd like to do the autobiography of a certain Mr. Shaun Teale, to which I said yes to. Shaun was a player that came to Villa in 1991. We didn't know too much about him. After a couple of games, we realised that he really could be a great asset to our club. He came into the professional game at a very late stage of his career, i.e. as a 24-year-old. So before that, he'd spent time in the brutal world of non-league football. And just like Ian Wright, he's never taken the professional game for granted. Every minute that he played professional football, he just absolutely lapped up and loved and respected it. And that's come across where we have gone out and done our book tours over the last 18 months. And we've met fans of a lot of the clubs that he's played for. And he's well loved and respected. And that's because he respects the game as well. So we had a really good time writing the book. We've become firm friends since. Also, that's what I keep on telling him. And the book tour that we've done at his clubs have gone down really well, as the supporters clubs events that we've done and other events. So we decided that we'd take this into another atmosphere and come into the 21st century and start doing podcasts. The TSS podcast is abbreviated to the Teale Saying Something podcast. And it's a bit of a play on an old Bananarama song from the 80s. And if you want to go back before that, it's actually a Motown song as well. So we really like the Teale Saying Something part of the game. He's very knowledgeable on the game itself as well, and doesn't just want to talk about what he did during the 80s and 90s. So we thought it was fair game. So we started this tonight. This is our first one that we're doing. The format of the show will be as follows. We'll talk about the topics of the day, and that can be absolutely any football story. So we'll bring out the stories that matter at that particular moment. We'll have a section as well on the teams that he played for. So we'll call that Teale's teams. So we'll discuss, where some of his teams are at this moment in time. And obviously, there's a lot of good things to be said about Aston Villa and also Bournemouth, another one of the clubs he played for in the Premier League as well. We're going to have guests on the show, and we're going to have competitions as well. So as well as that, it's going to be lined up to be a really good experience for all of us. So first and foremost, welcome to the show, our show, Mr. Teale. How are you doing?
Very good, Rob. How are you?
Yes, I'm not too bad. Are you looking forward to extending the work with me and having these every other week or so?
Well, I'm looking forward to doing the podcast, whether you're involved, No, honestly. No, obviously, we've had a great 18 months with the book and travelling around, seeing all these different people from different clubs. And it's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, it has. I totally agree with that. So for the people listening in, all 3,000 of them, hopefully, give us a bit of a background as to how you got into football and those first 10 years or so in non-league football and how you got into professional football.
Well, my first sort of tentative years in semi-professional football were, I started out at Ellesmere Port under a big Scouse fella called George Burns, who was really good for me at the time. I'd been released from Everton, so I was looking for a club, and there wasn't anything going league club-wise because there was no money in the game in them days. And going into non-league was just to keep me playing at a decent level, learning the game. Obviously, I was 17, going on 18, playing against former pros and tough non-league lads was quite an upbringing. I stayed there. I don't even think I stayed a season, and they got an offer from Southport for me to go to Southport, of which is my hometown anyway, and it just made sense. So I joined Southport, and then from there, sort of, it started to become a bit more serious. So I had a couple of years at Southport, and then fell out with the manager. Actually, if I'm quite honest, I actually had a fight with the manager and nearly chinned him, but we won't go into that just now. And they got rid of me pretty quick and sold me to Northwich Victoria for the holy sum of £2,500 at the time, which I suppose in them days, in the early 80s, was decent money for a non-league player. And that was really the start of my career in a sense, because from the 4 months later, following the end of that season, I was sold to Weymouth for £25,000, which was quite a substantial amount at that stage. And for obvious reasons, we moved down to the south coast, me, Carol, and then the family, which was the two boys who were basically, I think Ryan was 6 weeks old at the time and Nathan was just over a year old. So it was quite an upheaval, really. Neither of us drove, so that made it even more complicated. But we moved to a club that was in a massive upturn in not in form so much, but in the actual club itself. They'd sold the old ground in the middle of Weymouth to Asda, funny enough, and they'd built us a brand new state-of-the-art stadium just out of the town. So I went down there. I think my wages quadrupled overnight. I was given a house to live in. I got my first signing on fee, which at the time was £2,000, and I think I still had that 10 years later because I didn't dare spend it. And then obviously from the I was 2 seasons there, and then the big move came into league football, which is what I'd planned for all along. It's what I always wanted to do, and I moved across to Bournemouth under Harry Redknapp, another of my favourite people. So yeah, that was my first pro club, Bournemouth, and then obviously the rest, I suppose, is history. On to Villa and 4 great years at Villa. And of course, I suppose we'll catch up on the rest of it as we go along.
Yeah, exactly. And it was Villa where the likes of myself and all the other Villa fans got to know you. And you've still got a great rapport with Villa fans to this day, haven't you?
Yeah, I love going to Villa. It's apart from home, it's my favourite place. And fortunately for the likes of myself and all the other former players, because the ground's been so much updated over the summer, there's sort of 15 hospitality suites now. So basically we're there at every home game now, whereas it was probably 2 out of every 4 previous seasons. We're there at every game now. So, to be in a position where I can go and watch the likes of Bayern Munich last week was just unbelievable. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the Champions League games at Villa Park. But it's just one of those places. It feels like home to me. When I get there, I drive in and park up and walk into the ground, speak to numerous people on the way in, sign autographs, and it's part of being a footballer. This signing autographs thing. I love it. I think it's part of why you became a footballer is if you don't like the attention, then maybe you shouldn't ever be a footballer, because you're always going to get attention, even more so in the modern day. But I love being around the fans. I love talking to the fans and, having a laugh and a joke with them and even a drink with them at times. And it's just great fun going to Villa Park.
Well, I've seen that myself when you and I have done, our book signing events at Villa Park. The amount of love and respect that you've got from, fans of my age group and slightly below and above, it's just phenomenal. And it's lovely to watch, actually, when we're together doing the work. It's absolutely lovely to watch. So I think it's fair to say that over the last 2 years or so, you and I have been on a good journey. To continue that journey as we move into the podcast world, the 21st century, we're very pleased to say that we've got 2 sponsors on board as well, 2 great companies, and we've got representation from both companies that are sponsoring these podcasts. First and foremost, we've got Luke Roper from Luke 77. A brilliant clothing range that all Villa fans are very, very aware of. And we've also got Jamie Bowden from Bowden and Dolphin Signs that have had a great relationship with Aston Villa as well. So we're really pleased to have them on board. This is where you agree with me on that part, Shaun.
Yeah, totally.
I'm sure he's waiting for some gears to be sent through to him.
I mean, the thing about Luke, obviously, Luke was very clever because he managed the kit, making the kits one year, and it was such a great kit, and I think everybody loved the kit that it sort of rocketed in Birmingham. Luke 77 rocketed just simply by making such a great kit that everybody loved, that everybody wanted to buy.
Well, here's the thing on Luke, just before we give him a bit of airtime himself. If you look on eBay at his shirts, bearing in mind they're only about 4 or 5 years old, they are the same price as authentic kits from 25, 30 years ago. So it's phenomenal, the amount of attention that they've done. But let's talk to the main man himself. Welcome to the TSS podcast as one of our main sponsors, Luke. Great to have you on board, my friend.
Yeah, evening, Rob. Hello, Shaun, mate. How you doing, pal? It's my pleasure to be on board. I'm good, mate. Good to be on board. It's great to be on this journey with you both, and it's lovely to be on the first podcast, if you like. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for sponsoring us. So tell us a little bit more about your story then, Luke. How did Luke 77 come about?
Yeah, great. It's a bit of a Billy Elliot story, really. A proper Birmingham family. I'm one of 5, the youngest of 5. Mainly from Winson Green, moved to the Overspill of Browne Hills in '66. 4 brothers and my sister. We've got split football allegiances between my brothers, straight down the middle, 2 Villa, 2 Blues. One of my brothers, Mark, he took me down to Villa first, so that's why we're here talking today. I've got a lot to thank him for. And he often reminds me, but happy days. But yeah, my mum was a seamstress, a wedding dressmaker, and I took that skill. Growing up, in the Black Country, I saw a lot of people doing well, doing their own thing and stuff. So that was my natural talent. Apart from being an absolutely bang average footballer, I was really good on the sewing machine. So I sort of went down that route, carried on being the lad I was, and kept honing my skills, making clothes and making a lot of clothes in the 90s. Ended up via Walsall College at St Martin's in London in the late 90s, which was fabulous years. And then co-founded Luke 1977 in 2001. Built up a fabulous brand, really strong in the UK and the Middle East now. And when we had the absolute wonderful news when we were partnering with Villa for the first season, which was 18-19, we went on to have 5 wonderful years with Villa. We were 17 years old then, and it was just a lovely, lovely time for a business of our age to, like Shaun said, to get, I wouldn't say wider recognition. We were well known, but we had a lot of love off the Villa fans, and that continues, which we're forever grateful for. And I'm just I'll take it to my grave. Not just the 5 years. That first year was just fantastic as well, brilliant. So that's our story. Yeah,
it must be absolutely fantastic being a fan of the club, and then you get into a career that you want to get into, that you're good at, and then to have a deal with that club, it must be brilliant.
Rob, I haven't spoken about it for some years, and just talking about it now, it's putting a massive smile on my face, mate. I think the closest I could describe it back then and even now was Shaun's had this, wonderful experience of playing for Villa. For a non-player, it's probably the closest thing you're ever going to get, because the fans absolutely loved the kit, and we got a lot of love and respect through that vehicle. And it was an absolutely wonderful time. And as I said, wonderful years. And they continue. I go down Villa Park as often as I can. My sons try and get down there for every game, and just seeing a massive percentage of Villa fans that back us and love what we do and support us. And I'll never forget Jack's words on the pitch at Wembley in the final game of our 18-19 season. One of the Sky reporters said, "Jack, what's so special? What's so special about this club? Just got promoted from the Championship." And I think word for word, he said, "I'll tell you what's so special. We've got a Villa fan who's a manager, a Villa fan who's captain, and a Villa fan who's behind the kit." And that was a wonderful thing. Top man.
I can imagine. I mean, it's zeitgeist when you think about it. Really, that day to have the affiliation of the 3 people that you've just said there. So for myself, For myself, I can't make clothes. I can just about go down and understand what's going on the pitch, and I can write a few sentences together. But in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I'd go down Villa Park, and one of the biggest advertising boards that I would see is for Bowden and Dolphin signs. So another company that's had a great heritage with Aston Villa. And I'm proud to say we've got one of the directors on the phone now with us on the podcast, who will introduce himself. Jamie, welcome, and thank you for being a sponsor as well.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Luke, Shaun, and Rob. Yeah, brilliant. We've been Villa fans. The dads were Villa fans right from the very start. We're a sign company, and we've pretty much worked for everybody over the years. We had a great long relationship with the Villa. The dad started the business in 1959, and the sons took over in 2000. There's four of us. Basically, we did an emergency sign for the Villa on a Friday before a match in 1978. My dad ran down the ground and did this sign for them, and the Villa loved it, and that was the start of our relationship with the club. And through the years, we're involved with all the departments, really, from the commercial to the catering and everything in between. And we did all of the internationals, FA Cup semi-finals. It was all Villa had them all, didn't they, down there? What would you do? Community Shield, the Rugby World Cup we did. But my favourite was the Euro '96 was absolutely brilliant. The whole ground was decked out. We were asked to go and do some of the other grounds as well. We had tickets for all the matches. The atmosphere was absolutely brilliant. As a fan, working at the ground for all those years, it was from, like I say, 1978 until pretty much Randy Lerner came and started kicking all the local suppliers out, really. But it was fantastic. It was, like I say, for a Villa fan to be there all the time and being part and parcel of we used to watch them training. Before the game started, we'd be there. It was all done in hand painted in the day, and I can. Just fantastic memories, brilliant.
So you've been a fan, you've been a business associate, and you're also a rock star at Villa Park as well. So you're also part of the official Aston Villa band. Tell us a little bit more about the Quad Rocks band that you're part of.
Yeah, well, we're lucky enough. We've sort of given ourselves this name of the official Villa band. Not sure whether we are really, but that's what we call ourselves. And yeah, we did a gig in Sutton, and there's a chap there that works down the Villa, and he got us a gig. And we've done half a dozen now. We did Bayern Munich the other week, and again, for a guitar player that likes playing in a band, again to be down at the Villa is just phenomenal. So yeah, we've had a great time
being on stage, and you're doing something like LA. And I love the version that you do, by the way. You've got a sea of Aston Villa supporters in front of you. That must be
fantastic. Yeah,
obviously it's not going to be what Shaun's experienced on the pitch, but it's what a great thing for you to experience.
It is. We've sort of got all the songs and sort of rocked them up, made them our own a bit, and obviously made it so all the crowd can sing along with us, and it's brilliant. There's bits that we can't sing, like on the part on Sweet Caroline.
Yeah.
We let the crowd do that.
Yeah, of course.
But it's brilliant.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine doing that one. Well, it's a real pleasure, guys, to have you on board, and thank you for being the sponsors of this show. We'll have you on a little bit more as we progress for some stories. So that sets the scene as to why we're doing this podcast and what I want to do for the rest of the show. This is only going to be a taster, a pilot, if you like, for what's coming in the coming weeks and months and years. But we really feel that this show should be dedicated to the legend that is, I'm not going to say was, that is Gary Shaw, who unfortunately passed away a few weeks ago. Shaun, can you give us a quick overview of Gary's career at Villa Park, please?
Yeah, certainly. So Gary made his debut in the 78-79 season, coming on for Gary Shelton against Bristol City away. Villa lost 1-0. Against the same club the following year, he scored a hat-trick and Villa won 3-1. In the Championship season, he scored 18 league goals. Overall, he scored 79 goals for the Villa. Unfortunately for Gary, his career was cut short in a match against Nottingham Forest. From then on, he really struggled with injuries. He had a really bad knee injury and he suffered greatly with it. Gary ended up playing for the Villa, obviously, Blackpool, Sheffield Wednesday, Shrewsbury, Walsall, as well as spells in Denmark, Austria, Scotland, and to the end of his career, Hong Kong. Gary will always be remembered as this young, blonde-haired enigma, really, that sort of arrived in the years of the Peter Withs and people like that, and he just hit it off with Peter and the rest of the team. And he scored some fantastic goals. Obviously, he was a massive part of the European Cup win in '82, and he'll be fondly remembered by everyone at Villa. And I think that was sort of obvious from the tributes that have been paid at games already. The Bayern game and the other games just before that. I do also know that Gary's funeral is on Wednesday the 16th at Sutton Coldfield Crematorium. I think everybody's sort of gathering at Villa Park at 1:15 and then down to the crematorium for 2:30. And then those, I suppose, that are invited will be back to Villa Park for the ending of it. And it'll be such a sad day for an awful lot of people. Probably no more than obviously his family, but former players he played with, and the likes of myself who knew Gary really well from obviously working as former players at Villa Park on a weekly basis. And funny enough, only a week before he passed, I left Villa Park with Gary and walked back to the cars, and we had a chat on the way. And it was such a shock when it came through that it actually passed. So R.I.P. Gary Shaw, the legend.
Yeah, that is a lovely tribute to him, to be honest with you, Shaun. What did you know of Gary Shaw back in 1991 when you came to Villa? Looking at it from afar back in the early 80s when Villa were league champions and then subsequently from that European champions. What was your views of Gary Shaw at the time? Because a lot of people that are not from the Midlands area call him the first David Beckham, if you like, or one of the, a little bit like him in the fact that he was a good-looking chap. He had a lot going for him. He was of his time, a great footballer, and all that kind of stuff. What was your view of him from the outside back in those early 80s?
Well, if I'm honest, Rob, I'd have to be honest about it. I didn't know a great deal about Gary, but I didn't know a great deal about Aston Villa as a club at that stage. Everything changed for me, obviously, in 1991 when I got the phone call that I was meeting Ron Atkinson and there was a deal on the table for me to move to Villa. And then, you submerge yourself in the club once you're there, because it's such a fabulous club, such a big club that, all that's gone before comes back to, you learn all about it. Obviously, I knew about Gary because I'd watched the '82 final at home, sat in front of the telly. So I'd seen the final and I'd seen other Villa games, and I'd had the fortune of playing at Villa Park when I was over at Huddersfield playing in their reserves briefly. And the moment from that game I remember quite well is that David Geddes broke my nose. But there you go. But by all accounts, that was Geddes'. He was good at doing that because his arms were all over the place. But as in knowing the players that well, I didn't know any of them. It was a case of learning as I went along once I joined the Villa. But once you meet these people, the Dennis Mortimers, the Peter Withs, the Ken McNaughts, you soon realise, what they mean to the club. And that's evident still today. You only have to look at the Bayern game last week and they were all there, or all those that could be there. Ken couldn't be there, unfortunately, because he's not very well at the moment. But all those that are still around and still come down to the ground, we're all there, and it's great to see them all together. And obviously, it brings back an awful lot of memories for an awful lot of supporters.
Yeah, absolutely. So myself and Jamie, being of the same age, saw Gary's career unfold in real time. I definitely remember that 3-1 win against Bristol City, where he scored all three of those goals. And I think that's when he really announced himself, at Villa Park on that one. But I was talking to Jamie a bit earlier on today about games that we went to that, involved Gary, especially during the 80-81 season when we did win the league. And Jamie, we discussed about his first goal of the season in the second game. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's one of my first memories of Gary. That was 81. Was it the 80-81 season, wasn't it? First game of the season. We'd already beaten Leeds on the first away, hadn't we? 2-1. I think he scored in that one. And we beat Norwich 1-0. So we'd won the first two games of the season. I remember thinking, bloody hell, we're top of the league here, because that was a rare one, weren't it, for us?
Absolutely.
And I'd always remember with Gary, he almost seemed apologetic, didn't he, when he scored? He was. We were talking, weren't we, Rob? Andy Gray, when he scored, he was right up the old end, absolutely lapping it up. Gary was the opposite, wasn't he? He was like, well, I've done my job. Let's get back to the halfway line and get kicked off again.
Yeah, it's very true.
Phenomenal footballer, and also the last game at Villa Park that season, we played Middlesbrough, and they were a bogey side, weren't they? We could never beat them. And that day, rainy day at Villa Park, we absolutely smashed them 3-0, and he scored that beautiful goal with a side foot into the top corner of the net. We won 3-0, and we thought that we'd won the league, and of course we hadn't, had we? We had to go to the last game of the season, and we lost to Arsenal. And it was Middlesbrough again that did us a favour. They beat Ipswich 2-1. And then another great memory I've got of Gary's got to be that European Cup quarter-final, Dynamo Kiev, and he squeezed the ball home from that acute angle and set us on our way to meeting Anderlecht in the semi-final. And of course, how can we forget the final itself, when he's spun his man, hasn't he? Played that beautiful ball down to Tony Morley, who's crossed to within. He's won us the European Cup. He's done such a lot for the club. It's you just can't undervalue what he's done. And I actually saw an interview with him. I was reading where he said he was on the beach in Ibiza, just won the European Cup in 1982. He'd scored all those goals. He hadn't taken a penalty or a free kick, and he was drinking lager on the beach. And that Ron Greenwood hadn't picked him for the England team, had he? Which is incredible. I don't think he won a cap, did he, for the full international side?
A similar story to what you've just said there. He once told me that he wasn't picked for Ron's 22, but he honestly fancied himself for Mexico '86. But obviously, and then he had the injuries.
Yeah.
And he never got to play for England. I think he played about 7 games for the under-21s at that stage. But, at that time he did think, I'll make 86. And, of course, fate decreed that that wasn't possible for him.
Yeah. He should have gone, shouldn't he, in 82?
He should have. Yeah, he should have.
Along with Dennis Mortimer.
Yeah, so some great memories there of, the Villa players and the Villa fans. So from your side then, Luke, I guess he was more of a legend by the time you were watching him play week in, week out. What's your memories of Gary Shaw?
Well, you nailed it there, mate. He was a legend. He still is, obviously, as you said. I think my first game was in '84. So it was, in the last 4 years of his time at Villa. As a young lad, I'm not going to say I remember loads about any of those games I went to, but I just knew he was worshipped. Like, he was like a god figure. And, just going on what Jamie just said there, what you look back at the stats of, you got young European Player of the Year, or Young Player of the Year in 81, should I say, European Player of the Year in 82, and he's not even featured in the selection for the Spain 82 squad. It's crazy. When you look at that, I mean, what have you got to do to break into the? I mean, two massive accolades on the bounce, mad. But yeah, legend, local lad, one of our own. Again, we don't use that too often, but met him a fair few times. As Shaun said, on the circuit. At the games that I've had the pleasure of having a good catch up with Shaun and Gary on and yeah, what a player. It's just, again, it's a shame that I'm just a little bit old to have witnessed it in the flesh. I've seen enough footage, obviously, of it all, but I'd love to have seen him in his first half of his Villa career. But he's well loved. He always will be. And yeah, to win those two in 81 and 82 and not get picked, shocker, eh?
Yeah, an absolute travesty on that one, Luke. I asked for the fans to write into me, knowing that we were doing our first show, and I got a wonderful response from a Villa fan called Browne, and I'm just going to read out what he says about Gary Shaw. My memories of Gary Shaw paint a picture of a modest and humble man, yet one with unyielding determination when faced in front of goal. He possessed remarkable vision and only needed the slightest opportunity to find the back of the net. While there are countless goals to recall, his three crucial strikes in the European Cup stand out, particularly a stunning volley against Valor and a remarkable individual effort in the quarter-finals against Dynamo Kiev, which is what Jamie spoke about there. I was fortunate to be in Rotterdam to witness our victory in the European Cup, and we must not overlook Gary's contribution to Peter With's goal in the final. His brilliant pass to Tony Morley set up the winning goal. I'll never forget the image of Gary running towards Peter with arms wide open, a huge smile on his face. That day is etched in my memory forever. I can still hear him singing from the window with us Villa fans at Highbury after we clinched the First Division title. Perhaps the most treasured memory took place in my own home. My brother Chris was a friend of Gary's, and on Saturday, January the 17th, 1981, we celebrated Chris's 21st birthday at our house in Lean Crescent in Solihull. We had just defeated Coventry at a Highfield Road. Gary attended the party, and partway through the evening, he accidentally knocked over a can of lager, soaking the carpet in our dining room. My dad was quite particular about the house, and if it had been me or my brother, he would have been furious. But when he heard the commotion, he simply said, "Don't worry, Gary, accidents happen," and had to clean it up. I remember telling Gary that he was lucky it was him and not us. He was visibly embarrassed and kept apologising, which truly reflected what a lovely person he was. And then Ian finishes with this. For me, Gary formed the finest forward partnership with Peter With that I've ever witnessed at Villa Park. But the thing I liked most about Gary was that he was down to earth and sounded just like us with his Brummie accent, because he was one of our own. I think that's a lovely little few words about Gary
Wonderful,
Shaw.
that was, mate.
It really was. It was lovely when I received that, and I had a bit of a tear in my eye. So I think we've had some lovely memories there of Gary, and we're dedicating this first one to him. So really hope you've enjoyed the first TSS podcast. These will become more and more apparent, and the way we're going to do the format. And I understand, Luke, that when we do our competitions, you're going to be involved in that a little bit, aren't you?
Absolutely, mate. We're really pleased to support this and get involved with Shaun and yourself on the journey. So yeah, we'll be doing prizes every week, and that, I know you're fine tuning how they're going to be worked, Rob. But yeah, we're on board, and we're going to be rewarding Villa fans with big vouchers for our website ultimately.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to working with both of you companies on this journey. So I think it's been a really good start to the first TSS podcast. So from your side, Mr. Teale, are you happy?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I think it's a great idea, and it'll just build from this point now. It was important we look back on Gary's career tonight, and now we'll move forward to what goes on in the game over the next few weeks, I suppose.
Brilliant. Well, I've really enjoyed putting this show together. Thank you to my producer, Chris, for doing this. We'll speak to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Have a good evening.
Take care, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks all.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Cheers, boys.
Bye-bye.